Traders, welcome back. It is Saturday, July 14th, and we are looking at just this past week of market action. We're at 2,804, and if you zoom out, that's quite significant because we're basically breaking this 2795 resistance zone that has been serving as resistance for basically since February, March timeframe. We had tested it once in June, pulled back to the previous breakout zone, which is 2700, went just slightly below it, and are now basically breaking this area. We actually tested it once at 2800 and pulled back for that one day, but then it looks like we're proceeding to move forward in the bullish direction. And what can we learn from this past week, right? So this past week, this is an hourly chart, and what can we learn here? We have this Trump tariffs announcement on that Friday, July 6th, and since then we basically broke out of this almost kind of like an ascending wedge, right? Where we have this 2740 resistance zone, 2745 resistance zone, and just draw that out right here. And once we broke that, then we went to the upside without retesting that zone since then. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show, I like these FinViz charts, but for annotation purposes, this same chart is going to be shown here, right? So this chart is the same as this. And so basically, I'll draw that red line here. And so basically, what do we have here? We have basically an AB 1, 2, and then instead of the 3 happening immediately, we have an AB consolidation pattern. And in that 3, will begin, that will basically our 3 rally to the upside, begins with an 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave 1, an ABC wave 2, right? And then we get that rally at the market open, that wave 3, right? So that's, once this resistance zone breaks, that's your clue that, okay, whatever bearish scenario was in play before is no longer in play. You just at this point you must turn bullish, right? So by the close, you have to have turn bullish, even into the weekend, right? So what ends up happening? We basically get this follow-through rally overnight in that weekend, and we don't really do much that day, and then again, the overnight again, a rally happens, right? So at this point, you have 1, 2, 3, and then an ABC 4th wave pattern, right? And that's the thing, when you have this is that resistance zone, right? 2795 was a previous resistance zone. So if we were to go back, right, this 2795, right, 2795 was previously the resistance zone, right? So we tested it once, and of course you gotta, at this point, you can't expect it to just blow through resistance all the way down from down here on its first try. So at this first try, it'll pull back, but it pulls back, and where does it pull back to? Well, from here, you have support in this area, 2780. Alternatively, you would break just, this is what you call the opening gap, right? So if you have, this is basically the gap fill. So the market closed around this this area, right? So this dotted blue line, that's where the market closed, right? So the market closed here, and what is this? The July 6th, and then basically you have July 8th, which is the overnight session, and in July 9th, it basically gapped up and opened right here, right? So this gap between this area and this area, oftentimes the market will retest that area. So the thing is, when the market comes crashing down here, you don't have to panic, because you know that, okay, we just hit resistance, and like if you were lucky enough to have gotten out right here, where would you expect another buy entry, right? Another buy entry would be where the gap fill is, right? So basically, right where the market closed. So most people would probably have a stop right here, right? So what you want to your optimal entry point would be just near where that gap fill is, right? So the gap fill is in this region. So it turns out we did go into this area. You see that whisker right here? So let me just zoom out right here, zoom in right here. So this area that's just below this region, but above this, this consolidation region would have been the optimal place. So what ends up happening is we got the wave 3 high into 27.98, had an AB 1 2 3 4 5 wave 4, right? And then what happens? Well, you would expect a wave 5 or a setup for an extension, right? So it turns out we have this ABC wave pattern, and it looks like the wave 5 pattern is on its way, but then it's smacked down. So that at this point you got to wonder, okay, what's happening here? All right, ABC. Okay, well, this could be one of those AB mountain patterns. If you have an AB 1 2 3 pattern that fails, AB 1 2 3 pattern, then what happens next? You have an ABC, ABC pattern that forms the B part of the AB mountain, right? So if you were to, let's take a zoom in into this area. All right, so I zoomed in here. This is basically an AB 1 2 3, and then an AB 1 2 3 4 5, right? So that's an AB mountain pattern. And what ends up happening after that? Well, we got this rally, right? So we're at 2804. But the reason why I want to focus the attention on this AB mountain pattern is because that's what happened before the rally, right? So you want to be able to identify the patterns before this rally happens, so that you can increase your position size accordingly. And so this setup right here, where we had that wave 3, and then into that gap fill, right? So we had the gap fill, and the next day we had an AB mountain pattern, right? So this is an A top at 2787, and then a B wave consolidation into this area. So what pattern can we spot here that gives us confidence? Whenever, well, first we want to make sure this is an AB mountain pattern, right? So if this is an AB mountain pattern, then you have high confidence to go long, right? So how can we confirm this is an AB mountain pattern? We have AB, and then we have a AB 1 2 3 4 5, right? So this looks like a 1. This looks like a 2, right? So this is at the and then at the market open it goes kind of steeply high, right? So that's the nature of an AB mountain. It goes steeply high. Looks like it's going to be a wave 3 breakout, but then somehow it just stalls at resistance. You see these whiskers here, right? So it just fails, right? So when it fails, what kind of pattern does it form? Well, you can count this as a 1 2 3, and then an ABC 4, and then a wave 5 down, right? You see this 1 2 3 4 5. That's wave A. And then what happens? And wave A is basically near the bottom of this area, right? And then what happens? We quickly go up in a wave B. And then what happens next? All right, so this is the wave B. And then what happens next? We have a 1, ABC 2, a wave 3, an ABC 4, and a wave 5. Right? So that you see this pattern A, B, C, where the C of the B is around 2775. And then what happens next? Well, let's let's zoom in on this thing. All right? So it ended right here, and then we have basically a 1 2 3 ABC ABC 4, and then a 5, which is wave 1. And then we have wave 2 down, and then boom, this is when the rally begins at 27.76, right? So just to recap, we have this ABC A wave and ABC B wave, where that B is actually higher than the A, which is generally a bullish sign. Then we got the rally, right? So we got this giant rally. So this understanding this pattern is key, because if you can have this pattern in place, you can confidently, if you're already long, of course, stay long. There's no point in, if you see all this chug, you're like, well, maybe it's not bullish and you want to get out. No, that's not what you want to think. You want to stay bullish. In fact, add to your position if all these kind of patterns follow through, right? So in the larger scheme of things, this is important because, let me get back to the hourly chart. So this is the AB that I was talking about, right? So we have the rally all the way through to 27.95. We pull back to the gap area where it closed on that previous Friday, but only for a short period of time before starting an AB mountain pattern, right? So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and you would expect a 5, but instead you get an AB, and really that B part plays out. And so what you would expect next, if we're consolidating here with an AB pattern, then what would happen next is you should get a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 patterns. And so that is indeed what we get, right? So we got a 1, 2, and we try to go up, but we pull back, but then quickly, this whisker shows that is very bullish, right? So any attempt to go down just gets bought, right? So that's your sign. These are multiple signs that we're gonna go up, right? So 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So at this point, we just broke, by then 27.98 was the resistance, but by the time this happens, we have evidence that we broke it, right? So when you break it, we come back down, and you would want to kind of retest this kind of region, 27.95, and that is what happened on. This is Friday. On that Friday, it, opens overnight, Thursday night into Friday. It pops up here, but then pulls back. So the question is, all right, is it gonna fall from here? Well, it looks like it could, but then once you have this, 3, 4, 5 pattern, and then you see a move to the upside forming, then that's also bullish. So then at that time, if you had exited any longs, you want to re-enter your longs even at these high levels, because we broke resistance, came back and tested it, and it looks like that test went successfully. If on the other hand we just went straight down, that would be a different story. But the fact that we were showing some buoyancy in this area, this is your clue that you want to re-enter your longs, right? So you pull back, you kind of retest this area, pull back just a little bit, and it looks like the market is set up for continued bullish action into next week. And so that's what we're doing. We had bought Dow calls, exited half at one day, and then exited the rest on that Friday, but then re-entered our SPY calls here. So we should be set up for bullish action into next week. So that's actually quite a significant move for the S&P. But if you look at the NASDAQ, I mean, let me just pull a chart of the NASDAQ. There were even bigger clues, right? So there were even bigger clues that the NASDAQ, you see all this bullish action here. There were a lot of clues. The clues were basically in this triangle here. So I'm going to zoom in here, show you exactly what I was, putting my attention on. All right, so basically this is that weekend. We rallied and had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a wave 1, a leading expanding diagonal right here. Let me just draw that out. All right, so this is your 1 right here. You got that wave 2 pop, drops wave 3, and wave 4 is almost non-existent, and it just consolidates, and then boom. All right, so where does it go? Well, the previous morning gap I was talking about is in this area, right? So it actually went below it, but was able to recover. So this is this is the gap fill that I was talking about, the gap fill. And so what ends up happening is you have an the S&P was making an AB mountain pattern. Now look at this. This was making a very bullish biased AB mountain pattern. This is an AB 123, where the wave 3 fails, it goes down, and it forms this triangle. Now, if we zoom in, right, on this triangle, very insightful, because you have an AB, 1, 2, 3, where it fails, and then you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave A, right? So remember in the S&P we had like a similar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave A pattern, followed by an ABC wave B pattern, right? So let me just, make this bigger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 wave A, ABC wave B. Then you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, right? So it ends right here. And I used this triangle tool, and I just kind of drew a triangle connecting these top points. This was right around. I drew this triangle around here. So this predicted that the intersection of this triangle would happen, would eventually consolidate at around 11. What is this? 11 p.m. on July 11th. And it looks like it followed the pattern exactly, right? So at one point it looked like we were getting outside of the triangle, but then within, what is this 5-minute chart, within 15 minutes it started moving back in. And so basically what you have here is an AB pattern, right? Then you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where the 3 wasn't that strong for whatever reason. So you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave 1 pattern that broke out of the triangle, a wave 2 pattern that retests the vertex of that triangle, and then boom, that's where your wave 3 happens, right? So that's your optimal buy entry. All right, so from there you got this bullish action, and you would imagine it tests. The support area would be around this region. It looks like it dipped all the way down here, but then went there, and from there it just went straight up. I mean, look at that, right? So let's zoom out right here. So that AB pattern, usually AB patterns, AB mountain patterns, they go ABC, is your wave A, and then your ABC is your wave B, but the wave B can go all the way down here. But this was consolidating way up here. So that's a very, very bullish biased AB mountain pattern. So when that triangle vertex hits, that's a sign of large confidence that you could enter in big. And so basically, this was true for the Dow. This was true for all the major indices. And so whichever bullish position you have, that's conviction that you hold on to your long positions. And so right now we have, similar to the S&P, broke to new highs, pulled back on the market open on Friday, and showing some signs of consolidation. And it looks like it's promising to the upside for next week. So, going back to FinViz, again, this is the chart of the S&P. Key points was the July 6th midnight $250 Trump tariffs that came into effect, where the market, you would think, would act bearish, but instead it popped up. And then we got that 8:30 morning report where, okay, it was pulling back down, and it popped up again at that 8:30 morning report. And then when the market opened, it just went straight up, right? So that's like a very important kind of turning point in the market. The clues that you should have gone bullish were very clear once we broke out of this resistance region. Now with the Nasdaq, similar pattern. It was also set up for downside, but then formed an AB pattern and basically broke out of this resistance zone, and it pulled back to retest that opening gap from the Friday close, and from there it formed an a bullish AB mountain pattern. This is right here, and once that consolidated, it was set up for moving to the upside. So this was significant move to the upside. We pulled back, and it looks like we're consolidating for yet another move to the upside. And with earnings in play, we had that's why another thing on Friday, July 13th. Is it J.P. Morgan? Wells Fargo. I think some of these banks starting kicking off earnings seasons, and actually the individual stocks at J.P. Morgan, I think they went down actually. So the fact that we kind of bounced towards the highs towards the end of the day is bullish for next week. And so of course we have the Dow here. This is the index that we were long calls at the close on, by the close on Friday, and we're able to exit, I think, here and also here. And then at this point we bought SPY calls. So either way, whether it doesn't matter which index, that obviously the Nasdaq would have been the best one, but in general, if you have a bullish bias and you look at these other indices for clues, then these are clues that would help you make sure that you're on the right side. And if you are bearish, to make sure you flip that around. Otherwise, you could be losing a lot when the market's moving a lot in the upside direction. So the main thing is the news on July 6th. Turn bullish by Friday afternoon, and you should be set for this. You should have been set for this past week. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.